Not really. It's not really true. I wasn't the one who wrote the proposal at the beginning, and I came in the project a few months ago only. But yeah, one of my colleagues was originating this project, and indeed I'm now coordinating this one. So I'm going to give you a few words and a short overview of this project, which is a European project, and which started more than a year ago now, in June 2014. So you already have a good overview of the issues we can have with the identity theft, and Raoul will give you a quite large overview of the diversity of the documents you can have for passports or ID cards, etc. And the issues you may have for the people verifying these documents in Europe. Just to give you a few figures on the cost this kind of problem may have, and give you an overview of the fraud that Europe and the world have with the identity theft. In 2009, the healthcare fraud in Europe was 56 billion euros, which is a very large amount. And the same year in the US, you had more than 11 million identity theft cases in the US. It's very hard to get very precise figures of identity theft and the cost of fraud. So these figures may be a little bit outdated, but it's not a better situation right now. It's probably even worse. Like, we live in a worldwide situations. We have more and more cross-border activities. We have the internet. You use your identity cards physically, but also now electronically, and it's very hard to handle all these kind of usages. So the same in 2012, you had a lot of unique phishing sites detected. And allowing this identity fraud and the stealing of identities of citizens. And the same year as well, more than 8% of the French populations reported to be victim of this kind of identity theft, which is quite a lot as well. The real problem we have, and well, so the world regarding these points is a lack of homogeneity between the countries. We have many different documents, very hard to verify, and also we have a very weak link between the citizens and their identities. So most of the times when you show your identity cards for a payment or even a government situations, you just show an ID card, and what the person verifying your identity see is just a picture of yourself. And they say, okay, so the picture is quite similar, so you are the one you pretend to be, but it's not sufficient. So with the current documents we have right now, it's not very easy for the people to say, okay, you are the person you pretend to be. And this situation is very complicated to handle. So of course, a few countries introduced identity cards, electronic identity cards a few years ago, like Italy in 2001, Finland and Estonia in 2002. But in some countries, you don't have identity cards, such in Ireland. And in some countries, you don't have the need to process such identity cards, such as in France. So we have a quite heterogeneous situation in Europe, and for the European Commissions, it's a real issue to handle. That's why they have this call a few years ago for this project, and that's why we are here today, and that's why we try to produce some tools to fight this kind of fraud. So the link between the citizen and the identity document is the strong focus we will have in EKSISTENZ. We'll try to protect identities and to detect frauds. We'll try to build some identity theft observatories. So existence, what does it mean? It's a harmonized framework allowing a sustainable and robust identity for European citizens. This is, as I said, a European project. I'm not sure you're quite familiar with this kind of project. Most of the cases, most of the times, it's a project lasting 2, 3, or 4 years. As I said, it started last year for this one, and we have 12 partners between industrials, SMEs, academics, and governmental administrations dealing with this situation and this issue for existence. We have general objectives, few objectives in this project. As I said, the main of the objective is to strengthen the link between the citizens and the ID documents. Of course, it may be normal to admit that using biometrics is the most easy way the easiest way to make this link happen. We will provide some tools for doing that and assess the maturity of these tools. We will, of course, generate secondary identity from primary identities. So Raoul already said a few words on these terms. It's also one of the main concerns today, because we have some EID national cards, we have some very strong passport documents right now with the use of a chip and biometrics inside. But for the secondary identities, we don't have things like that. So for a bank card, you may have a PIN code to link the identity with the documents. But in most of the cases, you don't have a very strong link between these kind of documents and the citizens. We will use the stock project that you may know, which is another one European project, and we will use this interoperability to link the countries and use this network. We will try to give methods and processes to inform citizens on how fight this kind of frauds, how mention they were a victim of such a fraud, and how recovering their identities. That may be a real issue for most of the citizens, because most of the cases as well, they just don't know how to do for recovering their identities, or just mentioning the issue. We will also provide a common view on EU identity protection, and as I said, try to build an identity theft think tank and an European observatory on identity theft. So this is one of the most important goal in this project, and what we expect, and this is the launch of the observatory right now and the community of practice. What we expect is that this community will still live after the end of the project. So it's a big challenge, and we hope that the people involved in this community will last after the project. So this is a scheme showing what is the situation right now. As I said, you have a different level of risks between the citizens and the services, because the link may be more or less strong. Between the citizen and his documents, I mentioned the picture. Between the government and the e-documents, you may have the chip and the use of electronic communications, which is a little bit better. And between secondary identities and services, most of the cases you have a very high risk. And what existence will try to do is provide some tools to secure all these links and provide some useful tools at the member states level to increase the security of all these links. So the main goal of existence is, and what we expect at the end of the project, is to provide a toolbox, a set of toolbox for the member states to be able to choose what are the tools very useful for them, and what they can use for securing these different identities. As I said, a few countries already have some solutions, but it's not sufficient. And we expect that what we will produce during this project will help them to secure more and more their identities. So we will provide some issuance of primary identities, as I said, by using biometrics, face and fingerprints in particular. We will provide some secondary identity generation. So one way secure, because we will use some cryptographic functions to derive these identities. We will use and we will have these identities easily generated, renewed, and revocated. We will use the 3 factors authentication and verification process. So what we have today at the situation is you can show what you are. You can prove your identity by showing some documents, some information regarding yourself. You can give some biometrics information, so your face or your fingerprints, or you can show some documents, identity documents, national ID cards, or secondary identity documents. This is what we call the 3 factors authentication or verification. We will use some privacy by design concepts. Of course, the privacy issues are very important for the European Commission, and in all our projects we try to introduce this kind of concepts. We will use weak link architecture or distributed databases for securing these links. I already said we will use the stock connection for communicating between one member state to another. And we will build some identity theft register as well, so mainly for the secondary identities. And because they are one-way generated, it's very easily to revoke these kind of identities and to renew them. We will provide some methods for reporting identity theft. As I said, for the citizens, it's very complicated sometimes, so we will have legal and technical tools for that. We will develop some background check processes and duplicate enrollment check, and we will have a strong connection between all the European projects working on these issues. So I can mention the Fidelity project for the passports. Raoul mentioned the problem of reader documents, and we have another project for that called Origins. We will use the Store project, and we will use past projects such as Tabula Rasa working on anti-spoofing solutions for biometric or other projects. We will also have a strong contribution for the standardization, and we think of developing some working group on identity theft. And I already said that, but we hope that all these tools developed in the project will continue to live after the project. So this is a short image showing where we try to interact and to work in EKSISTENZ. We try to work at the member state level, provide tools for the member states, and what we hope is that the STORK project will make the connections between all the member states, and will make possible to verify identities, secondary or primary identities in different member states. Well, this is a few words for regarding the organization of the project. So we have a few work packages for doing all these things. I just say a few words on the main achievements we had during this first year. So right now, and you already had this overview with Raoul, we already have a quite good picture of how citizens are identified in the different member states of the European Commission. We have started the technical work regarding these innovative tools. So we have developed also some use case for that, which will be a banking use case, introducing the primary and secondary identities. This use case, we will try to show the whole process of the generation of identity to the revocation and renewal of the identities. We have developed some privacy techniques, so we will use what we call the identity as a service concept. Probably you will have bigger presentations later on, and we will initiate we already initiated the analysis of the relevant framework for secure citizen identities. So we have a strong contribution as well in terms of legal and privacy issues. I think Marek will have a few words regarding these points, so I won't say more. And we started also, of course, the dissemination and communication part on this project, and this conference is part of that. You have a website on EKSISTENZ if you want more information. We have launched today the community of practice, and we hope it will continue and have more audience in the future. And just a few words regarding what we expect from the people in this community of practice, on what we expect from the people in the advisory board of EKSISTENZ. We hope that the people participating to this community of practice will provide an external view and facilitate the cooperation between the different stakeholders. But most importantly, I think, is to raise awareness among citizens, which is also one of the objectives of this community of practice. That's pretty all for me. That's, if you have any questions, I think we will have these questions later on.